You asked, and I'm here to answer all the questions you might have about Nintendo Switch 2, the next Nintendo Switch. You know, just in case the huge 2 on the logo wasn't clear enough. Hit that like button just once, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Here we go with 30 questions and answers about Nintendo Switch 2. Meowprox wants to use their Switch 1 controllers on Switch 2, and we're happy to say you can. The controllers are compatible, although, for example, Joy-Cons can't charge or be used attached to Switch 2. However, the Pro controller is 100% compatible. Darius is concerned about the console's fans being too loud. Switch 2 is much more powerful than Switch 1, but in portable mode, it's quite limited and doesn't get as hot as you might expect. Plus, the fans are just as quiet as those on Switch 1, so no need to worry. Jesse wonders how powerful the console is. Well, we won't dive too deep into technical details, but essentially, Switch 2 delivers incredible results for a handheld console. It may not be top in raw power, but the combination of Nvidia's DLSS AI enhancements and the developers' familiarity with optimizing Nintendo consoles means you can expect amazing technical feats. Alex asks if Switch 2 has the same operating system as Switch 1. The short answer, yes, but not exactly. Switch 2 has its own operating system that's much more complex than Switch 1's, but visually, it appears almost identical. Victoide wants to know if internet connection speeds are improved on Switch 2. On Switch 1, the Ethernet cable is limited to around 100 megabytes. On Switch 2, this figure has been increased to over 400 megabytes for downloads and around 150 megabytes for uploads. Booster is waiting for the console's price to drop, like the Nintendo 3DS did. The problem is, Nintendo has already tightly priced Nintendo Switch 2. Given current market trends towards higher rather than lower prices, we'd advise you not to wait. Otherwise, it might actually end up costing you more. Rafa is annoyed that Switch 2 supports VRR in handheld mode, but not on TV. This issue is actually related more to software than hardware. Although Nintendo initially confirmed TV compatibility, VRR won't be available on TV at launch, though it is possible this will come later through a system update. Trogtron asks about what to do if the Joy-Con 2 loses its magnetism. Well, I'm gonna take away all your worries at once, because the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con 2 doesn't have magnets. The magnets are only inside the console itself, and under normal conditions, it would take decades for them to lose their magnetism. To extend their lifespan, we recommend not placing these magnets near high temperatures or powerful magnets. Our Discover wonders if you can pinch your fingers when attaching the Joy-Con 2 to Switch 2. Yes, indeed. Your fingers, hair, or anything else can get caught in the powerful magnets, so be careful. Jacko worries about people using game chat inappropriately. It can happen, but Nintendo records sessions in case inappropriate behavior occurs. Nintendo has the right to ban consoles if necessary. And also, you can only use game chat with people on your friends list, so it's pretty unlikely. Secret Gamat wants to know if Joy-Con drift will return in Switch 2. Unfortunately, drift issues from Switch 1 could happen again, because no joystick, even ones with Hall effect sensors, which aren't included here, is immune from long-term failure. Nintendo has improved the stick's durability, so treat them gently to make them last as long as possible. Diane asks if there are new menu themes. The themes are the same as on Switch 1. At launch, there's one white and one black. Maybe they'll add more in the future. Who knows? Bay for Dokkan asks if the console is water resistant. Definitely not. Do not put it under running water as it has no water protection. However, the console comes with a screen protector that Nintendo recommends keeping on, so it's best to follow their advice. Newsy wants to know which Switch 1 games aren't compatible with Switch 2. Since Switch 1 controllers work with Switch 2, there's only one game completely incompatible, Nintendo Labo VR. And that's simply because the main body doesn't fit into the Toy-Con VR. Josette asks if the speakers have significantly improved. Not exactly, but kind of. The speakers are exactly the same as those on Nintendo Switch OLED, but the internal cavity has been completely redesigned for better acoustics. You'll probably notice some difference, but it won't be huge. Ohio asks if Switch 2 has Bluetooth. Of course it does! The console has Bluetooth 5.2, which adjusts transmission power for minimal energy consumption, so you can expect a better connection than Switch 1 for headphones and other wireless devices. Justo wants to know if you can use regular microSD for Switch 1 games instead of the microSD Express cards required for Switch 2. Sorry to say, but no, you can't. Although Switch 1 games don't need that much speed, Switch 2 only supports microSD Express cards. SMRP64 wonders if game key cards need to stay in the console to play the games. The answer is yes. The card must remain inserted to play, just like regular cartridges. And if you try putting them in a Switch 1, they probably won't work, as Switch 2 exclusives aren't compatible with Switch 1. Valencianista asks about the difference between Switch 1 and Switch 2 cartridges. The main difference is that one is red and the other is black. They also have distinct identification codes, but you'll need sharp eyes to spot them. LB cards only work on Switch 2. LP cards are the game key cards. LN cards work on both Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2. Dyslaxer is curious whether the console's built-in microphone is only for game chat, or if games can use it too. The mic is available for developers, so if companies like Epic want to include voice chat, they can utilize the integrated microphone. Pepino Smash asks if Amiibo figures will still be compatible with the new console. The right Joy-Con 2 and Pro Controller have Amiibo readers, so you'll keep using your figures to unlock goodies in both new and old games. Oscar wonders if he should avoid charging the battery to 100% to preserve its lifespan. Switch 2 has automatic battery care management, similar to PCs and smartphones, so no worries. The console manages charging on its own to maximize battery life when you activate this feature from the menu. Emmanuel questions whether the console actually reaches 120 frames per second. Certain games can hit this frame rate, but it's an option you'll need to enable from the console setting menu. Malmomos and Iker asked what happens if you charge the console using both USB-C ports simultaneously. The console will pick and fix one charging input. It won't charge from both simultaneously, nor will it charge twice as fast. While plugging both won't harm anything, it's not something we'd recommend. Charging to full typically takes around 3 to 4 hours. Nanny needs confirmation on how many games fit on the console's internal memory. It has a total capacity of 256 gigabytes, with about 249 gigabytes available for games and captures. This depends a lot on game sizes, but averaging larger and smaller games, expect roughly 20 games to fit. Chrono asks if you can play with a Joy-Con attached in reverse on Switch 2. You can now attach and play however you prefer. You can put the left one on the right side and vice versa, but keep in mind some configurations aren't very comfortable or practical. Lysis asks how long the battery lasts. Well, that depends on how demanding the game is. In fact, battery life ranges widely, from about 2 to 6.5 hours. Ender Yoshi asks if the magnetic connection on the Joy-Con 2 can break. That's not possible. Due to how Nintendo Switch 2 is designed, magnets connect to a flat surface, so there's no risk of breakage. If you are worried about the central pin connector, Nintendo allowed some wiggle room, so it's very unlikely that the connectors will get damaged when inserting or removing Joy-Con 2. TXUE wants to know if all unofficial Switch 1 controllers will be compatible with Switch 2. We can't guarantee all of them will be compatible, but most of them should work, and will be recognized as standard Switch 1 controllers. To continue their adventure, Tails TV wants to know if you can transfer save game data from Switch 1 to Switch 2. Absolutely! Nintendo Switch Online saves your game data just like before, syncing your profile across consoles. Additionally, Switch 2 will directly transfer certain data when moving from Switch 1 to Switch 2. Keep discovering everything about Nintendo and Switch 2 with these videos right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching, see you next time!